Well, folks, this is going to be a fantastic Leading Your Best Life. I've got RJ with me, and RJ's an old friend, son of an old friend. We've known each other a long time. But RJ, this is going to be a super one because Leading Your Best Life is really about people realizing their full potential. And our Blokes Talk Beachside, we did a session last week with Steve Lumsdane, who's an 83-year-old who's been helping guys for 20 or 30 years in the area of mental health. And in this podcast, I want to go a step further from your angle, RJ, and your story is an interesting one. So, RJ, welcome aboard.
Great to be here, Leigh. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure, mate. I remember you and I surfing when you must have been about 14 or 15. Remember that?
I do remember that. And I believe I still have a photograph of that lying around somewhere.
Oh, there you go. A great memory, mate. A great memory. So for the viewers and listeners, tell us the RJ story. Where are you now? But what's been the journey?
Right. Well, long story short, I'm an alcoholic addict in recovery. Been clean and sober for multiple years. And I now work in the industry as what was a drug and alcohol counsellor, but I've recently been promoted to case manager at a private detox and rehab in Byron Bay.
Fantastic, mate. Fantastic. What a journey. So what we want to be doing here is delving into, I mean, literally these days, as you say, as a counsellor, let's talk about mental health. Now, obviously, over the years, you swam and played water polo, and you went to school and you went to university, and all those things. And obviously, somewhere along the line, whatever happened. Not necessarily your case, but what do you think leads people to end up with mental health issues and then be relying on, or let's just say, are mental health issues and drug and alcohol addiction, or even not addiction, spending too much time with drugs and alcohol, addicted or not, are they a related matter?
Yes, and the quickest way I can sum this up is that my study that I undertook to become a drug and alcohol counsellor was a double Cert 4 in alcohol and other drugs and mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So my college put them in the same umbrella.
Yep.
And gradually over time, they are not being distinguished as separate. And so shortly, I imagine that it won't be a double Cert 4, it will just be one thing. And there is definitely changes happening in the language. Like, it used to be drugs and alcohol, but now we call it alcohol and other drugs. So that's also associating alcohol as a drug, because that was a common misconception. And was actually even a misconception as a part of my story, which I'm sure we'll get into later.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So in regard to that, and obviously these days you're treating people with drugs and other alcohol and other drugs. What are some of the triggers that lead people, but let's say blokes in particular, because do you deal with both males and females, or mainly just guys?
No, both male and female, yeah.
Okay. So from your both study and observation, what are some of the triggers that lead down that path?
Look, short answer is trauma,
mm-hmm.
and can range from a bunch of stuff. For example, I work a lot with people who are receiving treatment now through me through work cover. And so that will be workplace related trauma. That'll be different for men. Sometimes that'll be a workplace injury, like a physical one. And as a result of an operation, they got prescribed pain meds, which they can't get off. Their prescription ran out, they turned to alcohol. Females might be something different, might be more of an emotional scar they acquired at work. Again, trauma, which they turn to drug and alcohol, or dating drug dealers, which they then turn to me for help, which work cover then pays for. But short answer is that it just seems that some people, I think of it as like a dam. Okay, so everyone's got a mental health dam, and for some people, just that's where the dam bursts into drug and alcohol. Other people, it's gaming, gambling, women, lying, exercise, money, a lot of body dysmorphia, steroids, undereating, overeating. We just don't know. And it is a mystery. The disease of drug and alcohol addiction doesn't discriminate, in the sense that you get all genders, all socioeconomic classes, all sexual identities, all ages, fit, unfit, rich, poor. Like, just, you couldn't put a finger on it and saying this is causing it. It just seems that some people, that's where the dam breaks, when things become overwhelming. And I think that alcohol is just so prevalent because that's the only legal one. And so that's why I think there's such large alcoholism as compared to probably a more balanced, or some people prefer this over this. Alcohol is just the easy one that comes to hand.
Wow. So somewhere in there, it's some kind of trauma, be it, as say, a work injury trauma to work, could be, as a female side, sexual trauma or abuse of some kind. Man, oh man, what a world. And so as you say, alcohol is the one that's so much more available than anything else. So is alcohol then some kind of comfort? Is it a comfort or a relaxer? Is that what people use it for?
Yes. Well, just to, rephrase quickly back again on the trauma thing. So while it can be a reaction to trauma, and not just something sudden in adult life, childhood or whatever, also addiction can just become a thing from anything. So even if there's no trauma there, it might just be a situation of circumstance or experimentation, which leads to addiction, or boredom or lack of purpose. And studies show that if you do something 20 days in a row, by the 21st day, you'll be addicted to it in some capacity. Now, some things are more addictive than others, but on the 21st day of doing something 20 days in a row, there will be that kind of lacking and void and longing for that activity, regardless of what it is. We absolutely. Does that sort of answer the question?
Yeah, sure. And I heard you mention before, some people's addiction is exercise. So
absolutely, yeah, healthy addiction. So exercise, another common one is work, which starts as a healthy addiction and eventually destroys families.
Yes, true. Well, again, part of my master's thesis was the Rappaports had this model called the relationship between family, work, and leisure, and that we the way we worked it was if work was your only source of what I called air, oxygen, identity, purpose, feeling good about life, and then work was taken away from you for one reason or another. I saw it and I used it in an example in a podcast the other day. One of our mates in Sydney years ago was heavily involved in work. His family was kind of okay, but it wasn't that super close to his family. And he literally stopped his swimming and water polo. And so when work disappeared, he literally had a mental breakdown. Like he literally thought that I remember him saying to me, people driving Telstra vans are spying on me, and people who are walking a dog want to kill me. I went, what the hell is that? So, and then he literally tried to commit suicide eating some kind of leaves off a tree that luckily didn't work. So I'd never been exposed to mental crises or mental ill health. But for me, again, the model that I was using was he didn't have a very balanced lifestyle. He wasn't, and you mentioned the sense of purpose. He didn't have a sense of purpose. He wasn't getting fulfillment from any other place in his life. And then when that was gone, work, his life fell apart. So when you're treating people these days, what are some of the things you do to help people get from either in addiction and, as you say, traumatized, to go on the journey? And maybe whether your own journey, what's the journey? How do people change themselves? What goes on?
Yeah, I mean, there's no black and white answer to that. If there was, I probably would be out of a job. It'd just be posted on a billboard somewhere.
Number 33. No.
Yeah. No. So there are some things that are irreplaceable: open-mindedness, willingness, and honesty.
Open-mindedness in regard to what? Taking in information or feedback or what?
Open-mindedness to changing behaviour.
Yeah.
Open-mindedness to learning about recovery.
Uh-huh.
And in a way, spiritual concepts, and just believing that change is possible.
Right. Yes.
Absolutely irreplaceable. Willingness. Some of the stuff's going to be tedious, annoying, repetitive, especially for blokes, uncomfortable feelings and emotions and all sorts of stuff coming up, which, any alcoholic or addict has been dumbing and numbing down for years. And finally, honesty. You're not going anywhere without honesty. And I would say slightly more than 25% of people who sit across me from a chair tell me they're not an alcoholic or an addict. And look around. You're in rehab. What are you doing here? Did you
Mm.
get lost on the way to the post office?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you didn't end up here accidentally, you know.
Yeah.
And just back to the purpose thing quickly, one that comes up a lot with my DVA, Department of Veteran Affairs clients, is that lack of purpose when they leave the military.
Yeah.
And that sense of purpose is gone. And such a clear sense of purpose, huge amount of respect, you know, multi-million dollar soldiers
Mm.
all of a sudden become average citizens. And it's a huge transition, obviously. I mean, I'm not a military man. I can't emphasize on that level personally, but I see the strife they get themselves into, and it literally is that lack of purpose. And that's a common question that I'll come across, that becomes necessary to ask them, not often on day one, but probably day 3. What has been your purpose since they've left the military? They're stumped, they're dumbfounded, they don't know what I'm talking about. And that's a big one. And just even willingness to have that conversation is irreplaceable, because some people just don't want recovery. They're not ready for recovery. They don't want to face their traumas, things that have happened, and they're quite happy to just continue living in that state, really. And
Well, you mentioned dumbing down and numbing down. Tell me what that looks like.
yeah, well, the thing that the person doesn't want to cope with, you know, and the dumbing down, if you think of the sedative effect that alcohol has, even though it is a depressant, but look at the numbing effects that a lot of pharmaceuticals have. And huge rise on the scene in the party scene is ketamine, traditionally horse tranquilizer.
Oh my God.
Is now a much more common party drug than, for say, ecstasy, which was really the drug of choice during my era of clubbing. And yeah, horse tranquilizer is a real thing. That's going to dumb you down and numb you down.
Wow. And as you say, I mean, we know alcohol is a depressant, particularly of the inhibitory centers of the brain. So basically it's taking the handbrakes off. So all of a sudden people are happier or more outrageous or whatever at some point because the handbrakes are off. And in particular, I mean, my observation over time is particularly those people who may be quite inhibited for their own judging voice or whatever's going on, alcohol then releases those handbrakes, and I can at last be happier. I can switch off my judging voice. Is that something you've observed?
Yes. Short answer, yes. Alcohol is a muscle relaxant and a social lubricant, and can be enjoyed safely, socially safely, I should say. And a lot of people don't abuse it. That's the thing. It does have that pleasant Friday afternoon effect for most people that consume it. 9 out of 10 people who drink alcohol will never ever experience alcoholism. Probably much more than that. Probably 99 people out of 100 who consume alcohol will never experience alcoholism, because it's just such a common drug. But at the end of the day, that substance on the shelf is a depressant.
Yeah.
And for that 1 in 100, it might have that effect at first or for a short period of time, but it will be like handcuffs, and it will be something they just cannot let go of, to the point where they'll watch wives walk away with the kids, they'll watch $1 million mortgages fall out from under their feet, cars, boats, vehicles, careers, friends, family, gone, health gone, freedom gone. They end up like incarcerated, and they fall right from the top. You know, it's just one of those things. The odd person out just gets caught in its grip, and it's cunning, baffling, and powerful.
Cunning, baffling, and powerful. The comfort factor, that, as you said, the 21-day habit thing, of that habit I've seen people get into, of at the end of the day going, I'm going to have a wine. I've had a hard day. I'm going to have a wine. And of course, one can lead to 2, and then it leads to 3. And then if it leads to way beyond 3, then of course it's a big problem. But that habit where this whole idea in my head of internal world identity and self-talk and self-justification of, well, I'm the kind of person that can comfortably have a wine at the end of each day, and I deserve a wine at the end of each day or a beer at the end of each day. You're reminding me of a mate of mine's partner rang me and said, Leigh, is it normal for people to have 6 cans of beer a night? Because my partner Bob, it wasn't Bob, and wasn't I won't say the name, but he says that everybody has 6 cans a night, and I said, well, that's just not true. In fact, I can tell you, I don't have 6 cans in a week, let alone 6 cans in a night. But how that justification and that self-talk of, well, everyone does it. It's just like, everyone has 3 or 4 or 5 glasses of wine a night. But that how it becomes, as you say, it's cunning, and it's that comfort factor, but people then start to justify, this is normal. Everyone does it. What are your thoughts on that?
If you're looking for people who will have 6 cans a night with you, you'll find them.
Oh, sure.
Easy as that.
But he was having him sitting on his own, watching TV at night on his own.
Yeah. Again, you could be choosing programs where that becomes normalized. And have conversation where that becomes normalized. And on the rare Saturday night occasion that you do go out, you do it in an environment where that becomes normalized, So studies show that even 4 standard drinks per week, I think that's for men, releases cortisol from the adrenal gland, which is the stress hormone.
Yeah.
No matter what. And even 6 cans of beer a night is enough to wake up the next day feeling dusty and probably a bit grumpy and moody, go through the day still feeling flat. You haven't had the best night's sleep, and your body's already producing the stress hormone. To end the day, experience craving, which again is going to make you quite irritable if you can't get your substance. Then experience the feeling of elation when you do consume the substance. And then often it's a roll of the dice about the behavior that's going to follow. Might be cheery, might be grumpy, might be sleepy, might be energetic. That's when behavior becomes unpredictable. If someone isn't an addict to something, they would have no problem skipping a night or 6 weeks or 6 months off the booze. It'd be like someone telling me, I can't ever drink milk again. Take it or leave it. I couldn't care less. Someone who's not addicted to milk wouldn't have any trouble just leaving half a glass on the table and walking away. But someone who has a problem with alcohol couldn't never think of doing that at a restaurant, and they'll go to the point of finishing other people's glasses just because it's fine wine or something.
Wow. Yeah, mate. Well, this particular guy, we knew at a social function, he would literally get to the point where he was speechless, and we didn't think he'd drunk more than the rest of us, but he literally would get to the point where he'd be semi-comatose and just go, "What? This is just a problem," And luckily, his partner, to a certain extent, pulled him into line in some way, as in, look, if you want me to stay around, you got to stop this drinking. And of course, the guy ended up losing about 20 kilos. He lost a ton of weight just by stopping. Because again, straight away, besides, as you say, the impact of the alcohol, there's all these damn calories in, be it wine or beer, all the sugar and the yeast and all these things. So you're taking in tons more calories on a weekly basis that in most cases you're going to be too zonked to be burning up anyway.
If you could get an honest conversation with that man, real honest, like therapy honest, in a confidential setting, and you asked him what the benefits of quitting drinking were, I would be surprised if the weight loss even came up at all.
No, it wasn't the weight loss. It was he didn't want to lose his partner. He didn't want her to leave.
Yeah.
That was
relationships, money, sleep, stress, will to live, ability to exercise, the taste of food, and just the glory of a morning sunrise, and getting back into old habits, and the extra couple of bucks in the pocket, and just life would be beaming out of his face. And I know because I've seen it over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about that, whether it be your journey or what you've actually witnessed over the years of the before and after life, as an alcoholic, and then the trigger to go, I'm giving up. I mean, and even then, because the note I've made here, which is one of the notes that Steve talked about the other day, the power of healing through talking, as you say, a deep, honest conversation. The power of healing through talking. And I know also you mentioned
which clearly, as you
spirituality
say,
and
lack of purpose or boredom and these other things
is part of that numbing and dumbing situation. But the types of conversations that trigger, because again, the guys in Blokes Talk Beachside go, how do I have a conversation with someone that is going to help? So what are some of the triggering conversations? Again, I imagine a lot of it's got to be professional and therapeutic, but at least a mate. How does a mate get a mate to get to that point? What are some of the conversations and triggers, and then life after? Because you've touched on what it's like once you've got off the alcohol and don't have that the grey cloud, the numbing and dumbing.
That's interesting. So let's just focus on the conversation one mate to another when one thinks one is drinking too much. I see it all the time. Everyone these days is a mental health expert. And they come to me after years of alcohol abuse and they say, oh, well, my mates would always put me onto the mid-strength beers when they thought I'd had too much. And it's like, right, and what are they doing? It's like, oh, just lines of Coke in the bathroom. It's like, all right.
Oh, my God.
We're wasting everyone's time, okay? No. Much less people are mental health professionals than there are people giving out mental health and including drug and alcohol advice. So one is identify if you are a mental health professional or not. Then I think the real kind of question would be, would you be willing to speak to someone who is a mental health professional about this behavior? Does the person deem their own behavior to be unacceptable? Because what everyone's lines are of acceptable or not is individual. And so someone can just be churning through relationships and living paycheck to paycheck and be completely fine with it. So in reality, there is self-efficacy in our society. If we choose to do these things, we are more than welcome to. The best example I have of this is where I did my work placement in a homeless shelter in King's Cross. The way we treat homeless health in this country is they go to the shelter, they get a pair of socks, they get a towel, they go have a shower, they get a pair of needles, they go and shoot up in the alley, and hopefully they don't die.
Wow.
That's the best we got, because they have self-advocacy. They have the right to do that if they want.
Wow. So in your opinion, what should be happening if it's going to actually help people?
Look, that's a tough one. If I had the answer, again, I'd be in Canberra. It's interesting. I think that really, can we acknowledge that the system is breaking under the weight of itself? Do Big Pharma have more power than they know what to do with? And also, is it time to start looking at some radical transformations of how we handle drug and alcohol addiction, any other addiction, and mental health problems in this country?
Yeah.
So other countries are getting very experimental. I don't want this to turn into a big segue. This is probably another topic for another podcast, but the use of psychedelic-assisted therapy is very big in other countries, namely America, England, the Netherlands, and it's been long practice cultural significance in South America, like ayahuasca ceremonies and stuff. Then also another sort of topic you could mention when talking about just a change of scenery in the mental health industry could be looking at options of decriminalization. For example, all of the resources and funding that's going into combating marijuana, if that became legal overnight, or at least decriminalized, and all of that money went into education and rehabilitation, we might just see a change. And I think the other important question is the war on drugs working? Have we won? Have we lost? Are we winning? Can we win? Or is it time to kind of bite the bullet and sort of shift gears here? So we've seen this happen in countries, New Zealand, America. America, they have weed vending machines. Australia, we have medicinal marijuana now. And psychedelics, I believe it's ecstasy and ketamine, the horse tranquilizer that I mentioned earlier, being tested as for psychedelic assisted therapy use in trauma and treatment resistant depression cases. So wheels of change are turning, but in this country, very, very gradually. There's other countries, Portugal completely decriminalized every drug. And there's other countries, much more sort of progressive in their alternative treatments.
Yeah, well, we say, I mean, what is global best practice? And certainly I remember reading reports on Portugal and what a fantastic impact decriminalising had there and their strategy. So we use neuro-linguistic programming. One of the principles of NLP is model best practice. Who's already doing it well and best? What the hell are they doing? What's the thinking that underpins it? No need to start with a blank sheet of paper. It's not like we're the only country in the world with that problem. Who are handling it best, and let's insert some of their strategies into here. No doubt about it. You mentioned spirituality. Let's talk a bit about, because I remember one person talking about. It's interesting that in alcohol we call it spirits. That when a person's really getting stuck into alcohol and spirits, whether it be vodka or rum or whatever, somewhere in there they talk about it is a crisis of the spirit, in the sense that, as you say, alcohol is being used as either a numbing and dumbing. Something's happening to the internal world. Clearly, chemically, something's happening to the internal world, but how the person's feeling. So coming out the other side, RJ, I know you've talked to me about, one, your mind and your commitment to sobriety. Can we talk about that? But we can also talk about your relationship with your inner world, and what you advise others to do in terms of the meditation and what you're doing on a daily basis. What does the day look like to one, deal with this thing called absolute sobriety, and then two, what you do in terms of daily practice and what you recommend in terms of daily practice?
Okay, sure. First, let's do my sort of before and after, because I think that will then lead smoothly onto daily practice.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be great if at the editing stage of this conversation we're having, we could superimpose a photo or two that I'll show you of
Please.
myself in active addiction.
Well, yeah, you can either send it to me, or if you want to pull it up now and we can do a screen share if you want to.
Yeah, just so you can see it, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's right. And then it'll come up on the recording as well.
Yeah. Where are we at? There's two I want to show you.
Mm-hmm. Picture tells us out. What is it? The picture is worth 1,000 words, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 words here.
Yeah.
There you are. That's you as the DJ, is it?
Yes, that was me DJing at some point. I mean, not even, that was just night clubbing.
Going out to a nightclub. Yep.
Save image. All right, I've got the other one. That was awesome. I was able to find it so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Downloads. Here we go. Beautiful. Okay, probably this one out of the two is more impactful.
Okay. So what stage of life are you there?
This is 2018. I'm in Cambodia.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at a waterfall. And so that was the sort of motivation behind taking the photo, was look at me at a waterfall. Obviously, I look like a prisoner of war. You can see my kind of rib cage all exposed there, collarbone sticking out, just frail shoulder sockets and even knees and thighs and stuff. Really frail.
Yeah.
And I tell you, the funniest thing is I thought I was ripped. And I was like, oh, it's going to be such a great photo because I look so chiseled,
Mm-hmm.
That was coming off the end of probably a 4.5-month bender in Southeast Asia.
Wow.
Where my diet primarily consisted of beer and cigarettes. And I would be in rehab probably less than 1 month after this photo was taken.
Right.
And then
so you're drinking. Were you like drunk every night or every day, or what was happening?
Yeah, round the clock, really.
Really?
Yeah, especially in Cambodia. Beers were sort of $1 each, and there was even happy hours where there'd be 25 cents each and stuff like this. And I was at a real kind of party place, where that was just kind of commonplace, Alcohol was definitely my kind of vice, but there was other people there. We all kind of found ourselves, all from different walks of life and different cultural backgrounds and stuff. But tranquilizer that I mentioned
Wow.
was quite prevalent there. All of the psychedelics, like your mushrooms and your acids and stuff. And then the more hardcore bunch, which I wasn't really associated with, would get on essentially the locals version of what we know as amphetamines or speed, but it was probably a bit more kind of chemically than what you'd get on the streets in Australia.
Wow.
And it was just this mecca. It used to be called Otres, but it's since been sort of redeveloped. But another similar one would be Goa in India, I imagine. I've never been there, but I imagine it's probably the similar vibe. And that's certainly what I was looking for, kind of like the Amsterdam or the Nimbin of these places, you know.
And were people dying?
I
Who didn't?
mean, it wouldn't be too far-fetched. I was working at a hostel in Thailand and someone died there in a scooter accident. And I think the statistic is, on average, 1 Aussie a day dies in an alcohol or drug-related scooter accident or traffic incident in Southeast Asia.
Wow.
It's something like that. But
Yeah.
where I was working at the backpacker hostel in Thailand, in Koh Phangan, the party island, every day people would go rent scooters and every day come back all just bandaged up.
Wow.
It's just this revolving door. And I tried to warn people every time they check in. I'd say, okay, if you're going to rent a scooter, please be careful, like please be safe. And sure enough, it wasn't always motivating enough to prevent it from happening. So there's the one guy who died, and another guy became a paraplegic from the belly button down in the time that I was there, and I was there for probably 6 weeks.
Man, oh man. So let's go to then the journey, the journey on the other side, or the journey of recovery, and both the coaching or counselling, the therapeutic journey, the healing through talking, and even what's your definition, by the way? I've made a special note here for you. When we say spirituality, what does spirituality mean to you?
Connection with the higher power of your own understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And so this doesn't need to be a religion or religious deity or something.
No.
I feel that there is a misconception that religion has hijacked spirituality in a way.
Yeah.
But no, I know from personal experience and just experience of others that spirituality can exist without that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, whether it be Buddhism or meditation. So it's, from my point of view, we're talking about an inner world journey, and as distinct from an inner world changing as a result of alcohol or drugs, an inner world changing in a much more healthy way. So this young guy, with the skinny one in Cambodia with the glasses, what was going on in his inner world at that point, and what are you doing on a daily basis so that inner world is different today?
Yeah, well, looking at it, you know, there was a lot of denial, which kind of goes back to the honesty that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
There was a lot of closed-mindedness,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that that's just the way I am and that's the way I'm always going to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of unwillingness to change.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can see sort of the full circle there. And spiritually, I was trying to fill a void inside with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And it can't be done. I was reaching for something off a shelf or over a bar to make myself feel good. Realistically, at any cost. Certainly to the cost of my loved ones, their care for me, and my health. As you can see how skinny I am. My finances were in ruin, and realistically, when that photo was taken, I was 28. I had no uni degree, no TAFE certificate, no apprenticeship, no forklift license, no RSA, no qualifications of any kind, and I would be soon to lose my driver's license. As a 28-year-old male, you know, that's not a lot going for him. And so that's alarm bells, you know. But on top of that, really the damage that was doing, which I think is an indicator of anyone's mental health, is how many people are left, you know, like how small has the circle become. And by that stage, I had been alienated or alienated myself from basically everyone who I knew in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just roaming around Southeast Asia alone. And sure, I'd encounter people along the way, but as I kind of mentioned as well earlier, like similar people doing similar things.
Mm-hmm.
That behaviour would not have been tolerated in other parts of the world. Even Australia would have been pretty illegal to carry on the way I was, roaming around the streets and going to waterfalls and stuff. And so my substance really did control my actions and even location.
Yep.
Then, I wish that I could say that my recovery was quick and smooth. I went to rehab after I got done drink driving to look better for the judge in court. My lawyer said that was the reason why I avoided going to jail. I blew high range, 0.25. I lost my license for 5 years and I had to do community service. And so I did kind of encounter some knowledge in rehab, but, I was 28 and just something about it, I just wasn't ready to hear it. Something didn't sink in enough for it to be a long-term solution. So I remained abstinent for 4 months after leaving treatment. And one sunny spring afternoon, decided to have a cheeky little beer at the Swindlers Hotel in Mount Hotham in Victoria. And that kicked off essentially a 15-month bender.
Oh my God.
I know. 15 months.
Wow.
Of basically daily.
I thought it was like 15 hours, 15 days, 15 months. Wow.
15 months. Yeah. So that was 7 months of drinking. And that was during the period that I did my community service. So I was drink driving on the way to community service every day.
Oh my God.
If I got caught drink driving during that time, or if I was in a traffic incident, I would still be in jail. And then I got sober from alcohol. And because I thought I was an alcoholic, I then mistook drugs as being okay. And so my 6 or 7 months drinking after my relapse then followed 7 or 8 months of drugging, even though I wasn't consuming alcohol. Thought the two diseases were different, learnt the hard way that they were not. Had to get clean then, even though I hadn't had a drink in 9 months from drugs. And that was nearly 4 years ago. And I've been clean from every mind-altering substance, including caffeine, ever since.
So just on that, do you recall any particular day or moment that said, that's it, I've gone low enough, or I'm unhappy enough, or whatever the situation? Was there a particular moment or conversation with anyone or thought process that went, bugger, that's it, I'm stopping? How did that happen?
Yeah, so the first one was when I stopped drinking. And realistically, I didn't have any more cards to play. Like if I had other options, I would have probably used them. But I was just at the end of the line. I was about to start a new job as a resident DJ at a ski resort in New South Wales. And I knew I couldn't do the job and drink at the same time. And so it was after actually a 48-hour blackout bender over Anzac Day, 2018. I went back to AA.
Yeah,
and
went back to AA.
At no point would anyone look at that behavior that between that meeting and my second last one when I was in rehab, and thought, oh yeah, that's the day that this guy will never ever drink again. It's absolutely absurd. Going from sleeping on beaches and bus stops and stuff to then boom, completely stark raving sober. And so 9 months later of regular AA, I'll call it regular AA now because we don't have time to go into the details, but it was enough for sort of the basics to sink in. And so when I did have a spiritual awakening, when I was on quite a medley cocktail of drugs, I knew what it was. It was this sort of rhetoric that had been recited over and over again in AA. And it was just through my resilience and repetition of going to AA and getting exposed to the message that when I did finally have a spiritual awakening when I was on drugs the last time, I knew what it was. And I thought, hey, that's that thing they've been talking about in there. And I literally did go from full bender on chemicals. I think I'd been going for 8 days or something. completely off my rock to just a light switch going off and stone cold sober, like you and I are talking now. And what happened was I was on a couch under a tree at 3 a.m, and the thought that passed through my head was, I never have to do this again, sober. And I think for the first time it was I never have to, not I never get to, because it was I never get to, I never get to. It was always like leaving myself that little back door, that little kind of fine print or the little loophole. For the first time ever, it was I never have to, and it was over. The getting on, the buying, the selling, the saving, the sharing, the storing, the stashing, and the sharing some so I can have some to use some with someone so we can get some more, so we can get some later, so I can buy some, so I can save some, so I can sell some. Over. It was over. I just stepped off the hamster wheel. And that's really when I say my recovery began, 25 days before my 30th birthday. And so it's still technically in my 20s. But 10 years too late. Like it's devastating. Didn't have to get as bad as it did,
Wow. So that's interesting. You, as you say, the one thought of I never have to do this again versus I never get to do this again. It's like a massive paradigm difference between I want to get to do still have that opportunity versus I never have to. In other words, in a way, you're associating pain or, as you say, the stash story, the pattern. You say, I've had enough of this pattern somehow. So then let's get to your daily practices. So the daily practices that help you maintain resilience and sobriety. What time do you wake up in the morning? Let's go through the day.
Okay, well, this has changed a lot over the years. For the first couple of years, it was probably just chocolate and porn.
You're talking about when you're sober?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking okay, chocolate and porn. Okay, yeah, that's still addicted to something. Yeah, yeah. So,
but not
yeah,
drugs. It took that as a
at least you weren't on alcohol or drugs. It was just chocolate and porn. Okay, right. Yeah.
These days, do you really want to know? It's pretty heroic.
I want the clean life. Yeah, what does the clean life look like?
These days I'll be up at 5 a.m. every day.
Yes.
And I try to avoid blue light, so coming off a laptop or a phone for as long as I can in the morning when I first wake up. And I drink this 3-liter bottle of water, and I have some vitamins, and I'll journal and I'll read.
You mean you drink 3 liters in the morning or 3 liters for the whole day?
3 liters in the morning.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
That's a lot of flushing. Yeah.
I'm aware. Journal and read. Oh, I've also recently started a Rubik's Cube. I might burn an incense, but realistically, I just like to not overstimulate myself for quite a while. I mean, 5 a.m. is pretty early. I live in a share house, so I do have to be respectful of the sound.
Yeah.
But I might get on my yoga mat just behind me, and just kind of stretch out some bits. But I'm really trying to get natural daylight onto my face and into my eyes, and just kind of settling in for the day. Then I'm quite lucky where I live, because by 5:45 a.m. this house is hustle bustle with life.
Yep.
And there's people up brewing coffee and chit-chatting at full volume, and we're going for it. Also, the view from the front deck is just 180 panorama of the Pacific Ocean.
Beautiful.
I can see the lighthouse in Byron Bay in one direction and the Gold Coast in the other. And so there's often pretty spectacular sunrise going on.
Yeah.
And so I'll probably take some of that in for a bit. There's also a full gym in the garage downstairs, because the guy I live with is a personal trainer and holistic coach, and so he works out of there. And so I'll work out there every day. Also, I paint mixed media on canvases. So
nice.
Probably once every couple of days, I'll do some painting in the morning. And I'm also recently started fasting until lunchtime. So I don't eat. That's how I can kind of get 3 liters of water into me. I will also do some computer kind of stuff, whatever it is, emails, uni, something creative, if I need to in the morning. And I'm off to work at about 8:15. Then, I've done all of it, like the kind of self-help, be the observer and the 5 a.m. club and the blah, blah and whatever. But, realistically for me at the moment, technology detox, technology fasting, dopamine fasting, that's where I'm really flexing my spiritual guns. And yeah, I've really tried to kind of make a point of it. For example, recently drove from Sydney to Byron Bay without the radio or music or podcast, just drove up in silence. And it's funny how something as simple as that now has turned into some great heroic feat that I get to flex on people, It's like, oh yeah, well, I do technology fasting. What do you think about that? Like, oh, I could never do that,
Well, then of course, with no radio, you're left with your own thoughts. I mean, in many ways, I see people that with radio, radio or music, it saves you being left just you and your thoughts. People say, I don't like my own company. Masad Guru saying, if you don't like your own company, you might want to take a look in the mirror. Like, what's going on there? So this whole idea of, as you say, you're right. The technology these days, of course, it's designed to stimulate dopamine, and people that's one of the reasons they're addicted to it. And we get so easy, we want that next hit. Oh, what's next? What's next? So the gym in the morning, so you're getting your serotonin and dopamine. Nature, of course, is such a powerful healing tool. Like in my case, Rob, just so you know, I'm up at 4, toilet. I meditate, Vedic meditation. That'll take me to about 5, and then I get in the car and I want to be down the beach by about 5:15. I do 15 minutes of shoulder warm up before. Then a group of us swim at 5:30. Like this morning, I did 4K, and then in my case, I then have a decaf coffee afterwards. And I remember you saying the other day, no caffeine. So tell me the reason for that. What was part of the thinking? Did you used to have a lot of caffeine as when you were addicted to alcohol, or tell me the thinking behind no caffeine?
Yeah, so I never really drank coffee. To this day, I couldn't tell you the difference between decaf Nescafe 45 and an $8 Starbucks. Like for me, it's the same. I don't know. But I was big on the energy drinks. I was really kind of like a young man when they blew up in popularity, And yeah, I drink them over the years. I'd wake up when I was in my sort of early 20s working in construction to pay for uni and smoke a few bongs and drink a couple of energy drinks for breakfast.
Wow.
The trouble with energy drinks at the service stations is they always sell them 2 for $5, 2 for $7. It's cheaper to buy 2 of them than it is to buy 1 of them.
Oh my God,
also, when you buy them at a servo, they're both cold at that time. So that's how I would drink 2 essentially at a time. And they come in the big cans,
Man.
And so the last time I drank energy drinks, and that was after multiple times of quitting and picking them up and only drinking small amounts, whatever. The last time I drank energy drinks, I drank 5 Monsters. So that'd be 2.5 liters. And the best part is I thought I was sober because I hadn't had a drink in so long. And if you want to change your mood by drinking caffeine, you can.
Sure.
And
it's a
so,
stimulant.
Yeah, that was the day also that I got clean. That wasn't the only substance I was on at that time, but that's when I sort of drew the line, and I was lucky enough to be able to. And they serve coffee at every Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous meeting that I've ever been to. For a lot of people, it's not one of those kind of substances, but for me, it is.
Yeah, in terms of being literally clean. So let's go to the sorts of things you read or listen to in terms of, because to me, again, I've been following Sadhguru a lot, and and part of his concept of spirituality is really like it's an inner journey of personal development, and not only that, an inner journey of personal development in terms of not only who am I, but being calm, a state of gratitude, a state of love, a state of self-love, and And of course, the breathing, the power of breathing is a way of managing that inner world. So as you say, the churches have hijacked spirituality, which is really, let's close the eyes and go internal and just, whether it be bring the sympathetic nervous system down, unstress, and instead of, as you say, numbing and dumbing down, it's kind of, I find with the Vedic meditation, I call it, you're kind of sweeping out the kitchen cupboard, the shit that accumulates in your head, the stress, the worry, the bullshit. For me, this year, a mate of mine, a close mate, Tomo, my mate Tomo died of brain cancer, and we scattered his ashes. We had a circle, a surf circle, and there were 20 guys, and we each took a turn at tipping some of his ashes out. And Sadhguru says, death puts everything in perspective, and that's where we're all heading. So obviously, I suppose at times when you're drinking and taking tons of drugs, at some point, it's almost could be a death wish, and you're racing there quicker than you might like. But it puts it in perspective, as in, man, particularly when you get to my age, this thing's going to run out sooner or later. So let's make the most of each day. And why would I want to wake up feeling shitty? And these days I find even 2 beers, 2 pints of beer, or a beer and a wine, that will take the edge off me the next day for feeling good in the meditation and feeling good in swimming. So, I literally at most these days will have 2 drinks, which you and I talked about the other day in terms of, where you're at is this concept of absolute sobriety. But I like the concept absolute sobriety, but cleanliness. It's, as you say, I'm clean. And that is my inner world is clean. I'm rambling a bit here, RJ. I'll cut that out. I'm rambling a bit here, RJ. In terms of what do you read or listen to in terms of your own spiritual development or personal development?
Again, it's developed over time. There was one YouTube guy, Wes Watson. I was really fond of him. He'd done 10 years in a California state prison and came out to become sort of like a bodybuilder, I guess, influencer type guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a very similar, I guess I should say, I've developed a very similar approach to him, which is he's taken the cotton wool out. I haven't listened to him for quite some time, though, in saying that. And also I did...
When you say taking the cotton wool out, tell me what that means, taking the cotton wool out.
A lot of cotton wool in mental health. There's a lot of mollycoddling and pats on the back and
right.
How do you feel and are you all right and stuff like this. People are dying. We don't have time for this anymore. I don't. Maybe it's my gender, or I just don't have the patience for it. And so I'm a little bit left of center when I tell my clients to shut the fuck up to their face.
Yeah.
And they're quite surprised. Hey, you can't talk to me like that. I paid a lot of money to be here. And I say, well, that's why you're paying a lot of money. You get someone like me to tell you shut the fuck up,
Yeah.
Because I've seen people die.
Yeah.
Seen people overdose while they're trying to figure out what gender they are.
Yep. And this whole, just coming back to this, the shut the fuck up, I did a closed eye therapy session, which she said, I'm not interested in your story. Telling your story keeps you stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as you say, you're listening to someone telling you a bullshit story, which is essentially keeping them stuck where they are. So, as you say, you're doing them a favor by saying, mate, shut the fuck up with the disempowering victim story, because the more you tell yourself that, you're actually believing it more and more. So, as you say, they go, what the hell? Your job's to listen to my story. It's like, no, not if it's a bullshit story that's holding you in the place you're in. Is that part of the thinking behind why you're saying shut the fuck up?
Yeah, definitely. And these are Iraqi vets I'm dealing with as well.
Yeah, right.
The story is important to them,
Yeah.
And it's a part of the story, that's fine. But also, how do I kind of phrase it? If we've got 6 weeks with this person, it's not long. It's not a very long time. 6 months would be what you could consider the minimum time of what would be required for residential treatment for a meth head who's served in Afghanistan, And so I don't have time for chit chat about this pity party bullshit, and I've got to really cut to it. And I've got to figure out as well, because I'm, there's quite a lot of clients and stuff. I've got to figure out quickly how serious this guy is taking it and what their intentions are. And so I know how much of my own effort and professional capacity to put into them.
Yep.
I hate to say it, but there is some who I prioritize more than others, and some who I will put more effort into than others, just from their own willingness and determination, and the way they present to me in treatment. Because realistically, I think that I'm better off putting 90% into the ones that are going to be better to receive it than I am putting 50 equally into everyone, which I don't think even the perfect counsellor could do.
Yeah.
I think it's just naturally the way we are as humans. We tend to lean this way. We have favourites. It's just unavoidable. Obviously, I'm not going to neglect anyone. I'm not going to put anyone in a harmful situation, but there are people that I find myself professionally more invested in than others.
Because they're invested in themselves, or they're literally willing to take action versus go through the motion and then blame someone else that it hasn't worked.
Yeah. And I've seen people check out against clinical advice, just willingly on their own terms leave treatment that they're getting for free. I've seen people relapse immediately after leaving treatment, and I've seen people, who want to give it a solid crack. I'm going to lean that way and try and help them as much as I can.
Yeah. Well, because the very public case over here in West Australia is Ben Cousins, who was for many times. I mean, I imagine you got a rehabilitation, good knows how many times. And it's really only in the last, it looks like 1-2 years or thereabouts, where he's back on television and for all intents and purposes seems to be clean and healthy. So, but that whole, for a long time, I remember seeing his TV documentary. He said, day 2 is better than day 1, and day 3 is better than day 2, and day 4 is better than day 3. It's like, what the hell, day after day? It's a completely different universe. And he was not interested at all, it seems, in making change. So I'm sure, as you say, some people are going to be ready for it, and it's got, I suppose, there's a range of criteria. But certainly in coaching and counselling, in my case as well, it's like, well, are you coachable? Tell me why you're coachable. Tell me why we should be in this relationship, a coaching relationship. How do I know that you're committed? In other words, I want them to sell me. And of course, one of the books we use is a book by a guy called Robert Cialdini. He talks about weapons of influence. And one of the weapons of influence is what he calls the principle of consistency and commitment, that when people articulate they're going to do something, obviously, giving up drugs and alcohol is a pretty serious one. But I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to get married. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to give up smoking. And you've made the point here, that ability to honestly and willingly say, I'm going to do that, versus say it for the sake of, I'm just shutting you up. I suppose in therapy, and we use it as well, the whole idea of scaling. So on a scale of 1 to 10, tell me how committed you are to this. Why is that? All of that stuff. So these days, I imagine you've seen all types. I mean, they say Jesus Christ said, you throw out the word, the gospel. Some land on the rock, some land on the sand, some lands on the soil. It's a bit the same in your case as well. So, in terms of success stories, and obviously you can't talk about people's individual identities, but what are some of the great success stories where you've seen transformations, and from your observation, what has caused that? What's been the catalyst for that transformation?
I'll tell you, ironically, is that some of the best transformations are the people who start out very unwilling, unhonest, and unopen-minded, who I immediately write off as a no-hoper. I want to be proven wrong.
Yep.
And I'll have no hesitation saying that to their face. Really.
So what? So as you say, there they are. From your initial assessment, they look like they don't want to change. That they're happy to stay, but somewhere along the line in their journey, they make a decision. Again, a bit like a decision, whether it's same as yours or different. That's it. So in some of those stories, do you observe what those stories are? And by the way, are there tears involved? Is there, people talk about is it a breakdown or is it a breakthrough? Let's talk about tears and emotion as part of that journey. Are tears a necessary part of it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't wake up in the morning and think I'm going to go and try and make a veteran cry today.
No.
But that happens.
Yeah.
And, you just don't know what the thing is that's going to create the light globe moment for that person,
Yeah.
So, and, it's not uncommon that it's actually got nothing to do with staff. Sometimes they just have such a problem with authority. They don't want me to be right
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason because of the collared
Right.
shirt. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm on that side of the pen and paper, and the
Mm-hmm.
opposite armchair. But they meet someone out the back having a ciggy and can be the right person for them to have that light globe moment. Can also turn into a quite successful drug dealing, cooperation.
It could go either way.
Go either way, but
Yeah.
and also, people might come in with one state of mind and set of beliefs about something, but it takes a little while for the dust to settle and for the just for the past to kind of catch up with them, and they can really take stock and think, hang on, they can look at the guy, and that's the problem I have in the private sector now, is that there's no 55-year-olds who've done 30 years in Silverwater prison with a big scar like this from some bloody prison shank. And so when I get a young man in, I can't point to the guy in the corner who's all just fucking beaten up and defeated with a swastika tattoo or something and be like, that's where you're going to end up. It's all nice and it's polished and it's white and it's clean and it's homely and there's people cooking food for you and everything's lovely. And it's so hard for me to tell them this is not what it's like the next time around. When you're waiting 8 months to get a bed in the public sector in a fucking bunk bed with a bunch of people who probably should be in prison and who probably aren't in prison because the judge gave them the option, this joint or prison, and they chose this joint, and they got no interest in getting clean. They got no interest in learning about anything about recovery. They just want to fucking get on one with their buddies and get the fuck out of there and get fucked up. That's what's lacking in my line of work at the moment. And sometimes in the public sector, you get that connection with the 50-year-old and the 19-year-old when you can say to him, look, mate, I was there. I was here inside these four walls when I was your age. You don't have to do what I did. And even that 50-year-old can have that conversation with that 19-year-old, and that 19-year-old can still not get the message and still end up like that. We just don't.
Yeah. No. Wow. So in terms of, do you do much reading these days? Do you just, whether it be podcasts or reading in terms of your own knowledge? What I always like to ask people, what books are you reading or what things are you listening to? Obviously, that guy you talked about, the fitness trainer fellow. It's just always interesting to know, because we say if you are what you eat, what are you feeding your brain?
Yeah, good one. I've definitely got a lot more books than I do read. My books to reading ratio is well out of whack.
You just buy them and look at them, or they sit there and keep doors open? What happens?
Yeah, a couple of paperweights and different things. And I'm kind of halfway through 2 books. So
well, give me the 2 that you're halfway through. Where your current brain food is at.
I was reading Rise Warrior Wise by Rollish Singh.
Hold it up. What's that about? Rise, awaken your soul. Okay. And what got you to buy that?
It was given to me by someone else in the industry, and apparently he's just a real kind of go-getter of some kind. Really motivating, probably.
And so you started reading it, or you're about to?
No, I gave it a bit of a crack at the chunk there.
Okay.
And this other one, The Concise 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Yeah, great. And what are you getting out of that?
It's good. I'm getting some actual. I'm getting therapeutic practice out of it.
What do you mean therapeutic practice out of it?
Well, I do that a lot with lots of things. I'll just interpret information and then in my own mind translate it into drug and alcohol counselling.
Sure, of course. I mean, that's what you put into your own context, and then how do I use it with myself? How do I use it with other people? All of those things, mate. Fantastic. Now, as we move towards the close of this conversation, is there anything I haven't asked you or a topic you'd like to cover before we start to move into the home straight?
Well, I think that yeah, just touching back again on the technology detox, because, and even just stimulation, constant stimulation, if it's reading or whatever. I was doing that, and even though it's fitness people or guided meditations on YouTube or health podcasts or whatever, at the end of the day, when I really put it down, about halfway through the year, I did 10 days in Bali, multiple times without a screen at all. And it was very interesting of what I still had left to process, and this is multiple years of clean time. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, hey, like I must be doing pretty good for myself. I thought I was a bit of a hot shot, this young buck on the industry, and felt all high and mighty. And putting the screen down just for that period of time, really, it was amazing stuff from my teenage years, these resentments, this dumb shit, just noticing patterns of thinking that weren't serving me anymore. And so
Mm.
while it was one thing, yeah, to constantly just be flooding my brain with positive affirmations. You can be anything, you can do anything. Allowing my brain to produce that on its own, without a YouTube video telling me that, and then
Right.
after, did someone say KFC?
Yeah.
That's been a that's been a huge, huge turning point. As you kind of say, the ability to look in the mirror, but the ability to sit with my thoughts and stuff. That's where I'm really flexing my spiritual guns at the moment, realizing that the observer doesn't exist, that thoughts are thoughts just as feelings are feelings, and observing is observing, taking myself up and beyond that, past
Yeah.
that just
Yeah.
constant need for validation, that, and also my endurance sports. So this is a good time to mention, I got a busted lip there and a bit of a busted nose.
Yes. Nice.
I
That's
came
from
off
what?
on my palm.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I was cycling on my road bike for the first time ever. Bought this great bike off Marketplace. Thought the maiden voyage, a good place would be the M1 Pacific Highway, and went up and over the handlebars. I mean, it's simple as
Oh
that. But
no. Wow.
I know. But I've done kind of a couple of half marathons and city to surf, tough mudders and stuff like this. And I've found spiritual connection, as I'm sure you would have in your sport as well, but I found a spiritual connection at the 3/4 mark of high intensity endurance sport. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm at with it at the moment.
Yep. Yeah. Well, look, as you know, I mean, I swam twice to Rottnest last summer, and I'm going to do it again in February. And then my son James and I'll do a duo together. And I think there's a 10K swim I'm doing in 12 days from now. But somewhere in there is this whole principle of present moment fulfillment, present moment contentment. I love that. Forget not the past, the dead past. It's gone. Playing with the dead past, as you say, you can play in the dead past. And what was it? The pity party bullshit. You poor me, that past, or even poor me, this future that I don't have. I'm imagining this horrible future that I don't have. Versus, no, in this moment, there's just this moment. Like even now, there's just this moment between you and I. Right now, there's just this moment when I'm swimming. So somewhere in there, I was thinking the role of meditation in this journey of people, because as you say, the 10 days without the dopamine, the 10 days without the screen, how systematic is introducing people to meditation as a vehicle to calm down or clean out the kitchen cupboard or, stop the pity me story or the pity party bullshit? Is that a standard part of treatment? Do you recommend it? Is it where does that fit in at all?
Yeah, so treatment has come a long way from the electroshock therapy.
Yeah, right.
We do know holistic treatment methods exist now. And I actually received some acupuncture probably for the 3rd or 4th time ever in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And this time actually presented with a psychological issue and can actually report that I've had positive relief from those ailments.
Oh.
And that was just me and acupuncture at fucking 5 years clean, So at my work and other places in the industry, hyperbaric chambers, very common.
Oh, Wow.
Different varieties of massage, shiatsu, etc., Pilates, acupuncture, dietitians, and then various therapies. And the thing is that we just don't know what is going to land for the right person.
Mm,
And some people just have a problem with the language. I've had clients tell me they'll never do art therapy because that's for fags, you know?
All right.
And it's like, okay, fine. We're not going to do art therapy. We're going to do a drawing exercise. And they got no problem with that whatsoever, you know? And so
Wow.
just
Yeah,
things with
yeah,
the language, we just don't know. And I always tell
yeah,
them, well, try everything, do what works more and what doesn't less, but keep an open mind. And if you don't like yoga now, try it once. If you still don't like it, try it again when you're 2 years clean, and you might change your mind. You just don't know.
yeah,
But like,
yeah,
if art therapy is working, do it every day. If
yeah,
it's not,
yeah,
never do it. Fuck it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so this holistic approach and clients being able to choose to some capacity their own path to recovery is inalienable and irreplaceable. But really, meditation and spirituality for the terminal addict is indistinguishable with anything else. At the end
Mm,
of the day, for the proper person who's self-diagnosed with terminal addiction, there is no other treatment than spirituality,
wow.
just
Yeah,
accessible through meditation.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is, I mean, I love what your point here. The numbing and dumbing down is what am I numbing, and why, and dumbing down as in really at some level, am I trying to stop the internal, the monkey mind, the chatter, the negative talk about myself, or as you say, whether it be the pity party story, or the poor me, or I've got no future, or so on and so on and so on. RG, we've covered so much here, RJ. I'm just looking at technology fasting, the lack of purpose, and then the finding of purpose, the healing through talking, the pattern of thinking that's not serving me. As you say, therefore, being the observer and being able to distinguish, is this thinking serving me or not serving me? Having the conversation. You talked about the light going on at that moment of, I never have to do this again or take that again. Just incredible, mate. So is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Yes. Thanks for having me. It's been great little chat. Really enjoyed it. I do need to say that, you know, while I have had my experience and got some qualifications and ended up in the industry, I'm definitely no more of an expert than probably anyone else. I definitely don't consider myself to be some pioneer in the industry, and everything I've said today should be taken with a grain of salt. I'm happily wrong and proven otherwise, and I'm glad when that happens, because I'm very willing to learn, and I don't want to stand by anything with very strong conviction. I'm definitely not a white knight coming in to rescue everyone. And although yes, I can claim multiple years of clean time from mind-altering substances, I can't necessarily claim behavior. So in my clean time, I've seen, as I mentioned, chocolate and porn, but that's also included sort of sexual and digital obsession, and porn, but chocolate, but also overeating and family dinner boxes from Macca's and stuff. And then it's procrastination or gossiping or replaying negative events in my life, or reimagining events in my life where I'm become the hero rather than the fucking wanker who was pissed, you know. And in NA, they give out these little tags when you collect milestones. This one says
Clean and serene for multiple years of recovery. Fantastic. Yeah.
I can't fucking stand this thing because
Yeah.
I can't claim the serene part.
Right.
I can't
Yeah.
stand
You're just clean. You haven't got
clean,
the
not
serene
serene.
yet.
I'm not about to claim that at all. So anyone who
Okay.
listens to this, please don't imagine that I'm just floating off on a cloud of
Yeah.
awesomeness. That's
No.
not the case. But what
Yeah.
I have done by removing so many vices in my life, because I'm vegetarian as well, is if I'm having a really rough day, I mean, a shocker, and this has probably happened less than 10 times this year, I will go and get a block of chocolate. I will go and get a family dinner box from KFC, and I'll watch some porn. And I can relapse on those three things
Yeah.
without picking up a drink or a drug or a cigarette or a bong or fucking anything or
Yeah.
Valium.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
wake up the next day, go to a meeting and fucking
Yeah.
put my hands in the air and talk about how clean I am.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's gone for me, just continuing to remove these vices.
Yeah.
And inevitably what gets replaced is positive things, the things that
Yeah.
serve me. I'm very lucky. I consider myself very, very, very lucky. I don't know why, but I burnt out too bright too soon. And to get clean and sober, if I had a client walk in the door at 29, with that history that I had, I'd say, mate, you're too young. Get the fuck out of here. You know, there's nothing I can teach you. You know,
Mm.
it is too young statistically to get it. For whatever reason, yeah, I ran out of gas in the tank. If I could have continued, I probably would have. I just had no other cards left to play. I had to get clean. But in getting clean, I found my purpose, which is drug and alcohol counselling now. Before, when I was in active addiction, I was in tourism hospitality, worked in many resorts, including ski resorts, tropical islands, national parks, including international. And I got my qualification as a resort manager, and then entered alcohol and drug recovery, got my qualifications as a drug and alcohol counsellor. I intend to one day combine my two skill sets and manage rehab or halfway house. And I'm just lucky that I have that purpose. My
Mm.
purpose is to stay clean and sober. My purpose
Mm.
is to spread the message of recovery to the addict who still suffers. And I didn't kind of earn that. It just sort of fell on my lap.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why me. I don't know why I got sober and why some people don't. I don't know why I was able to just pluck this perfect purpose off the shelf just for me. And I don't know where it's going to land out, but I feel very grateful that it was me that crashed and burned so rapidly, so thoroughly in such a heated ball of flames that it just was unsustainable. My heart really goes out. My heart really sings out for the one who's plateaued.
Mm.
And you'd be seeing it at your age, Leigh, like the bloke, the tradie, whoever, stockbroker who's been on that 6 beers a day, couple of bongs a night, maybe a bag of Coke on the weekends or something, or a bottle of bourbon on the weekends. You can do that for 60 years. What I did was so unsustainable, as that photo, you can see earlier.
Mm.
It was going to end very
Mm.
shortly, and it
Mm.
did. One way or another, I got clean. Not everyone does. Don't know why me, again, but I'm just lucky that I'm not on the plateau.
Mm.
The plateau, that's worse. That'd be
Yeah.
worse. Just I see people come in to AA and NA these days, middle-aged men, 60, whatever, teenage kids who don't talk to them, 2 divorces, one of them has a AVO out against him, bloody criminal record. Used to have mansions and lost it all. Used to have businesses, lost it all. I didn't lose any of that shit. I never had any of that shit to lose in the
Yeah.
first place. I
Yeah.
lost the ability to get any of that stuff. My addiction took my ambition. It took my manlyhood, my self-esteem, my future, really. But recovery has provided me with this vehicle to get all of that back and then some.
Yeah.
And so for me, staying clean and sober is very easy, is very easier than the alternative. People ask me if it's hard. Fucking picking up, that'd be fucking hard and expensive.
Mm.
If I think that
Mm.
picking up would be cheaper and funner, I would do it tomorrow. You think I'm a fucking idiot? No.
Mm.
Obviously, I'm going to do the cheaper and funner and better and gooder option. Now that I'm approaching life with a sober and clear mind, and that's the option I'm going to choose. I'm biased because I'm a drug and alcohol counsellor. I work on the front line of recovery with mental health and addicts and veterans and work cover people. And if you asked a sommelier at a restaurant,
Mm.
hey, what do you think about alcohol? They would have a very different opinion. They'd say, oh, I see a bunch of people consuming alcohol every day in
Mm.
a safe and effective
Mm.
and consumable and efficient way that isn't going to
Mm.
cause them too much harm.
Mm.
I'm biased on the complete opposite end.
Mm.
And I'm staunch clean and sober with no mind-altering substances at all, including like trace amounts, mouthwash, kombucha, cough syrup, desserts. I'll go to a restaurant and they say, any dietary preferences? I say, yeah, I'm a vegetarian and I'm allergic to alcohol. That's a rare breed to take someone who takes it that seriously. To have my sort of rap sheet in recovery. I've started 2 meetings from scratch, and I've got this bunch of qualifications. I've landed this fucking job in Byron Bay, just every counsellor's dream.
Yeah.
And I've done it in less than 12 months of working in the industry, you know? Like, it's just, I wouldn't even recommend someone else entering recovery attempts to try and do it because of how difficult it would be, you know? It's just
Yeah.
like, I don't know why it's me. Here I am.
But the
you know?
universe, the path has opened up for you, mate. Yeah, obviously, you've been doing good work. As you say, you started two meetings from scratch, and clearly the different lives you've changed as a result of that, including, as you say, the people that are near and dear to you, for you to get you back,
That's
which
it.
was clearly lost in one form or another for quite a while. So to get you back is like the greatest gift.
That's a great gift. And I say to my clients all the time, you know, there's the things I say to them. So what are you looking forward to most about recovery? And they might come up with 4 or 5 things like, oh, I can't wait to get back in the boat and start fishing again. Bullshit. There's the things that they know are the benefits of recovery. And then there's the things that I know are the benefits of recovery. Like, mate, forget about the fucking fishing. Imagine walking down the street with self-respect. You know, and they're like, oh yeah, that's a pretty good one, I guess. I'm like, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
But then there's the things that neither of us know, which are the benefits of recovery. And they are often turn out to be the best ones. And everyone's on their own journey and everyone's got their own benefits of recovery. We just don't know what they are. And, you know, I just always tell them, like, stick around and find out, you know, like, who knows? Like, we just don't know how
Stick
great.
around and find out. Exactly. You know, interesting. You know, we say there's a French proverb that says the forest shapes the tree, the ecosystem shapes the person. So if you're hanging out with a bunch of people that are drinking 6 packs, 6 beers, or, you know, 6 cans a night, and that's normalized. And as you say, in the hospitality industry, it's easy to be surrounded by alcohol and even drugs. We had a fellow who was a parent at the school the kids went through school with, died at 57 only a couple of months ago. It was suspicious. He was always a bit overweight, but he was in the wine wholesaling business. And on his Facebook, every photo is him drinking wine. And at the funeral, the daughter spoke and said, you know, Dad, I was pregnant. He rang me every day. He was always there, center of attention, cooking at Christmas Day, always so much fun. And then the son gets up and says, you know, Dad was a great guy, but he took his own life. And when I said to the daughter at the wake, were there any signs? He goes, yeah, look, he'd been to AA. He'd been to AA 2 or 3 times. And then he started to get some health issues and he started to catastrophize, talk about being the observer of your thoughts. And he literally committed suicide 3 days before his first grandchild was about to be born. So taking your point of hang around, stick around, be clean and hang around and see what magic might unfold, as distinct from either drink yourself into the ground or even worse, drink yourself into such a state that you then make a decision in the moment that says it's good night, and the trauma that's created around as a result of it. So your point, hang around, mate. See what might happen. See what magic might unfold. RJ, I'm going to have to wind up, mate. Thank you so much for your time. This has been fantastic, and we'll share this and we'll edit parts that we need to take out if we need to. But thank you so much for your time, mate, and keep doing the good work.
Cheers, heaps, Leigh. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks, mate. Keep leading your best life.
Just quickly, if anyone is struggling with drug or alcohol or knows someone who is, don't reach out to me. Find someone cheaper. I'll leave it at that. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, RJ. See you, mate.
Thanks, mate. See you, Leigh. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, wait, Leigh, one more thing. No, sorry.
Yes?
This one, really. I do want to express my condolences for Tommy.
Tomo, yes.
Tomo, sorry.
Tomo, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you.
Yep, I remember sharing a beer or 2 with him across various states of Germany.
Yes.
And even Manly. He came over a couple of times.
Yep.
I was saddened to hear of his loss.
Yeah.
And I have fond memories of him.
Mate, he an absolutely lovely fellow, mate. He loved his mates. He loved his surfing. You know, we were super close. In fact, when I paddled out at Bali the other day, I had a little tear in my eye, thinking more. He was the one that got me to Bali in the first place years ago. So the people that you bump into in life, and again, it's another example of life being so fragile and so temporary. being clean and healthy, and I think the meditation and the surfing and that level of discipline helps the mind be clear to enjoy every moment before the moment goes.
That's it.
Thanks so much for your time, mate.
Cheers, Leigh. I'll see you.
All the best. Bye.